Hello, and welcome back to Trek Prime, episode 43. I'm glad we got that right this time. I always get a little worried we're going to mess up the numbers and someone's going to get us for it. But anyway, so we're on episode 43. And, I was just telling Jeff, I couldn't really, this week, I couldn't really give a title to what, you wanted to do. But I'll kind of let you explain what we're doing, and that might kind of help people understand what we're trying to do here this week.
There was like three characters, in Star Trek that really didn't get very good, closure. I mean, didn't really get it just seemed like it was very rushed or very half-baked or something. And the three characters I'm talking about, of course, is Montgomery Scott, Thomas Riker, and Jadzia Dax. Each one of those characters, we really got a kind of a shafting on a closure. It's like, they deserve better than they got what they got, I think.
So you want to start with Thomas Riker?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Thomas Riker is sort of a character and a half because he's sort of a Riker clone created during a transporter accident. And he just one ended up going back to the ship and the other one ended up staying on this planet and surviving, and they pick him up. And the episode, I believe, was Second Chances from season 6 of TNG. So now in that one, if I recall, he actually didn't get a bad send-off in that one, did he? He went to another ship.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of closed it off where he took some things that we wanted from Riker, and the two of them kind of said goodbye, and he kind of said goodbye to Troy, because him and Troy sort of kind of rekindled an old
right, because he was Lieutenant Riker and she was still Mzadi to him, so. Yeah. Even though she was like, well, Commander Riker and I didn't rekindle it, but maybe I can, like Crusher said, I can work things out with Lieutenant Riker.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't with, and that's when he decided to take the name Thomas to avoid confusion.
Yeah.
And to kind of showcase he was different from the other Riker.
That's right.
So he went back to a ship. Now, the shaft, I'm assuming you're talking about is, it's a D Space Nine episode.
Defiant.
Is that the name of the episode?
I think it was, yeah.
Defiant, yeah. Where basically Thomas Riker returns to Deep Space Nine disguised as his clone, twin, I don't know what you call it, transporter, twin, whatever.
Yeah, he was trying to pass himself off as Will Riker.
Yeah, with a uniform and, believe it or not, sideburns.
Yeah, just...
almost like, have you ever noticed how in movies, if people wear a mustache, this guy's nobody ever notices it's the same person?
Yeah.
It's not like that old cartoon thing like Scooby-Doo. We'll peel your mustache and we never noticed you were that person before.
Yeah.
It's like, so the sideburns make him somehow Will Riker. So, anyway.
Well, that's because Riker, Thomas had a goatee and Riker had the full beard. You know what I'm saying? Will Riker, his beard.
Right, so the sideburns kind of
made the difference.
Right, so I just found that interesting that he kind of, the sideburns made him the other Riker. But apparently Thomas Riker had decided to differentiate himself by sympathizing with the Maquis and trying to steal the Defiant.
Well, see, there was an oddity in that episode. Is that, remember when he runs into Miles O'Brien?
Yeah, he's all hostile toward him.
Yeah, and it's like, why would he do that?
That was weird, because did Miles O'Brien and him even meet when he first went on The Next Generation?
Yeah, they did. And the thing of it is that if the last thing you want to do is to get people suspicious of you is to act different than you normally would. So I don't know why he would try to, be angry towards O'Brien when they were friends, when, Will Riker and O'Brien were friends, and when they left, separated, on the ship, they didn't have any animosity.
Yeah, and I think even Cisco and all them were like, what's going on with that? We never knew any animosity.
Yeah. So that was kind of weird when they did that in that episode.
Yeah, I always wondered about, was Thomas Riker trying to do that because he didn't want O'Brien to blow his cover somehow?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see how we could have done anything, that would have. I mean, he's sitting here having, chatting with Jadzia because remember he said that, she played poker with Will or something like that in the thing, and he didn't try to do that to her by saying, "Oh, get away from me," or or something like that.
Well, that could have been that O'Brien must suffer trope they always talk about. Like everything bad happens to O'Brien.
Yeah.
If somebody's trying to deceive the ship, let's just take it out on him because he's O'Brien.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the O'Brien must suffer thing. It's like, yeah, if Thomas Riker's going to get back in, it's going to be O'Brien he gets back at,
Yeah.
Just because things, So I just see it as that part of that trope that apparently O'Brien was the whipping boy of Deep Space Nine. You know.
Yeah, I guess he was.
You know? I mean, Thomas Riker, Keiko. Anyway.
Yeah.
Alien prison sentences. You name it, he's got it. Poor guy. But anyway, here's the thing about that. So yeah, he decides that he's going to go on this daredevil mission where, Kira has to give him this lesson on terrorism. And I believe, doesn't he turn himself into the authorities?
Yeah, at the end, Kira kind of talks him out of what he was going to do. But I thought, it seemed to me like there was something more going on in that story than actually what was on the surface.
You mean him trying to be different than Will Riker?
Thomas Riker. It seemed like they deliberately took the Defiant into that area of space to see what was going on there. Remember this? They were talking about there was a military buildup, and it had something to do with the Obsidian Order. And it seemed like Riker just wasn't taking the ship out to just attack random targets. It seemed like he deliberately went in there just to get sensor readings or something like that. It seemed like he was on some kind of covert mission, posing as the Maquis, leader or something like that. That's the kind of feel that I got from that episode. It wasn't so much that he was a turncoat or a mutineer. It was maybe he was on some kind of a secret mission from Starfleet to get information on what the
it really did seem like they were just kind of get rid of that character, like put him away somewhere.
Yeah, and and it's weird because it brought up a whole bunch of issues with this Riker, because if Thomas Riker would be like, if he had the temerity to take side with the Maquis, wouldn't Will Riker have the same kind of motivation to do the same thing?
Here's the interesting thing about that. At the time, I always wondered, when Lieutenant Riker was trapped on that planet, I can't remember the name of it, wouldn't that have been roughly around the time the Cardassian War was going on?
I think so, yeah. That would, yeah.
So maybe that's why he sympathized with the Maquis, because, he may have been very much involved with the Cardassian War and some of the issues that were happening then. And he might have found it weird the Federation would seek out an alliance with the Cardassians of any sort.
Yeah.
But even still, there were some things they could have written in there that would have made it a little more, have more impact. And
yeah.
It's almost like they just wanted to shove the character to the side and get rid of him forever.
Yeah, I mean, I even wrote to CBS, producers and stuff like that, and I said, so are we officially closing the book on Thomas Riker? And I got a one answer back, and it was yes. And I was like, there's so much more. I mean, you can't just drop this character. I mean, I know it's just a secondary character, but it's connected to Will Riker. You got to have a follow-up to find out what happened to him. I mean, you get sent to a prison world, and that's the last we see of him. And it's like, well, did he ever get out, or is he still there, or did he get killed? I mean, I know they did some books about him, but books aren't really considered canon in Star Trek lore. But
right, they're more head canon, I guess.
Yeah. So
canon mention.
Yeah, I just felt like it was like they needed another story to go with it, and they never did it, and I was like,
it was almost like that story in the soap opera where. Some actor asked for a raise, and next week their character's in a coffin for no reason. It was just, it's that old trope. It's like, oh yeah, you asked for a raise, they're in a coffin, the next week they died off screen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, they just wanted to get rid of Thomas Riker for some reason. They didn't want to utilize the character. They just kind of rushed him out of there in kind of a rushed ending.
Yeah, I mean,
they set up this whole scenario.
That's what they were going to do. Why did they even bring him into the Deep Space Nine thing altogether? Why didn't they just end it in the next episode?
Could have been worse. They could have made him a Section 31 operative.
To me, it seemed like they come pretty close to that. I don't know.
But stupid, but an even worse send off. But
yeah,
bringing that whole bit. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, and that character, since he's basically another Will Riker, he could have been like an interesting kind of counter.
Yeah.
I mean,
somebody that Troy would come and visit, or they'd still have this thing going on that would develop. I mean, there was so much more they could have done with the character.
Well, it could have been weirder. She could have married him in Nemesis. That would have been very strange.
Or you have the two Rikers serving on the same ship.
I mean, I could see on the Titan, Captain Riker and First Officer Thomas Riker. Riker twins on the same ship, Double your pleasure, double your fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, those are kind of wild things, but still, it's like, at least that would have been kind of interesting rather than just have him sent off to some prison somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, this is another Riker. I mean, we've known this guy for 7 years in another characterization. So why not redevelop this character another way?
Yeah.
Instead of just having him go off on some Daredevil mission.
You couldn't create a character like that, like and just leave it that way. I mean, unless in that, you know, you found some way to reintegrate the two Rikers back together or something. You know, they left them split apart. So now you have two separate characters, and they're equally important, you know.
Well, you know,
they're like twin brothers now.
So in short, what they did is they kind of ended up doing something of a reversal of Thomas Riker, what they did with you know, Clone Picard. I mean Shinzon.
Shinzon, yeah.
Yeah, basically he's Clone Picard, only a screwed up clone. So, like I said, it seems like when they clone these characters, they kind of do. At least with the evil Kirk, they combined him with him because they couldn't function without each other.
That's right.
One would have been dangerous and rapey. The other would have been indecisive, and they needed to put them back together. Tuvix, actually, I want to talk about that in its own podcast because that was a situation that was very interesting. Yeah. That could be its own whole conversation. But with Thomas Riker, he was who he was, and they should have at least given him a little more dignity than they did. I mean, he essentially is another Will Riker. Yeah. So even though he changed his name, it was like, oh, well, he's just trying to be different. It's like, well, you know, they're not exactly teenagers.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I mean, teenage twins sometimes are trying to differentiate each other, but these are grown men. Why is he having some little kid? Yeah. You know, they just wanted an excuse to get rid of him. Like, you know, so. Yeah. So is there any more you have to say on Thomas Riker? Because I can't really think of much more than that. They just kind of rushed him out of there because they didn't know how to use the character, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, you know, maybe they just had too many characters on Deep Space Nine and you want to get rid of it. So I don't know.
One good thing is that Jonathan Frakes is currently directing episodes of Discovery, so they didn't forget about him, so I'm glad about that. Yeah. I'm glad about the next gen people. They give him some love, you know. Oh, yeah. You know, so anyway. And, you know, I'm giving my love to them. I'm glad they're still involved in it, you know. Maybe Frakes can put a little more trick into Disco. You know, that's fine with me. But anyway, you know, because he knows that whole bit. But anyway, the whole thing is that, okay, so should we go to Scotty now?
Mr. Scott, of all people, I mean,
I mean, come on. The guy that got the party kind of started.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even give him a 2-part episode. They just give him this one banger.
Well, you know what that was? I get the season 5 thing. They did it with Spock had a 2-parter, so I'll give him that. Spock had a 2-parter. I mean, well, sort of a part because he was only in the end of Unification 1, but he was in all Unification 2. So whatever. Yeah. But I think it was the 25th anniversary. You know, let's just slap in as many old TOS faces as we possibly can here. So I kind of feel like Scotty got slapped into a episode that could have been anybody.
Well, here's the thing. I read the novelization to the episode Relics that came out.
I have that.
Yeah. And it was a much better story than what they ended up putting on
the same story, only more fleshed out, basically?
It was the same story, but there was a lot they left out of it when they put it on TV. I mean, they actually went on the surface of the inside of the sphere and met life forms and stuff like that.
Really? You know, they actually got people on the inside of the sphere?
Yeah, there was supposed to be life forms on the inside of the sphere because it's supposed to be they're drawing the energy from the star that they encompassed with the sphere.
Yeah, I found that weird. They said there'd be people in there, a great number of them, and we never met anybody.
Yeah, and it just made it seem like the thing was hollow. There was nobody in it, but there was a whole bunch of life forms in there, but we never get to see it. And so what they did is they chopped off almost half the friggin' story, and they just went to the end where they were trying to get out of the sphere. You know, so everything else was cut out.
Did Scotty interact with any of these people or in the mission in any serious kind of way other than being...
There was more that he did in the thing. He wasn't actually inside the sphere, but there was a lot more that went on the Enterprise. He got to speak with Troy. You know, there was this thing between him and Troy a lot that we never got to see in the...
There was a thing between Scotty and Troy in that?
No. Yeah, there was, where she was trying to, because she knew that he was, kind of suffering. He was longing for...
Well, that's something I wondered about. Why didn't he go right to Troy when he was dealing with his uselessness?
Well, in the storybook he did. I mean, well, actually, she came to him. She sensed that he was not happy.
Because in the thing, all he did is went in there and found something to drink and get drunk and go in and sit on the Enterprise bridge. Yeah. I'm thinking, if Troy isn't there, why isn't he talking to her?
Well, at first, he felt a little bit like she was prying into his personal life, but she kept going out at it, trying to get him to talk. And they finally figured out what it was. It wasn't Picard that figured out what he needed. It was Troy that figured out that he needed to be useful again. And she went to the captain and said, is there any way you can get him to do something so he feels like he's needed, and so he has him go with a Geordie over to the Janolan, I guess, yeah. And that's how that started. But
so those novelizations are based on scripts, and they usually are those TV novelizations.
Yeah.
They cut a lot out.
Yeah, that should have been a 2-part
Very
episode.
important details.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were doing 25th anniversary, they should have made that a big epic 2-parter. Scotty's back for 2 parts. There's going to be stuff happening. That would have been really good.
I mean, there was a whole other story going on in that thing that they totally left out. And I was like, there was so much about the sphere that we never got to see, and doing that. All it was just a big trap, essentially a mouse trap on the TV show. But there was a whole other thing going on with that sphere that we never got to see.
So there was actually a story with that.
Yeah.
And I imagine, now I'm sure in the book they did the same thing with Scotty, which I'm sure you're going to get into, where they just stuck him on a shuttle and hope for the best.
Yeah, well, that's how they closed it out, which I thought was like, that's so. I mean, they just put him in
This is freaking Scotty.
Yeah, I mean,
this guy basically is responsible for designing most of the Starfleet aesthetic of the last 100 years.
Yeah, they kick him off the ship. Okay, go on, get out of here.
I mean, even though he's unfamiliar with the engine design, I mean, he knows his Enterprise, and basically everything was. You can't tell me that the Enterprise lineage from there on wasn't based on what they did in the Connie.
Yeah.
And the Connie was kind of his baby. If I understand it, didn't he and that Larry Marvick kind of design all that stuff together?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of his baby. He knew that ship. And it's like, and like I said, when he went back to his old Enterprise, he wasn't going back to the movie one. He was going back to that old Connie.
That's right.
That was the ship that he kind of built from the ground up.
Yep.
I hate to bring Discovery into this. We should really be seeing Scotty in Discovery at this point.
Yeah, really.
Because, I mean, the Connie is his baby. So,
I don't know if Scotty was served under Pike, though, when he had the ship.
No, I know he didn't, but we should be seeing him in some capacity because, he could be a guy to explain why he decided to change the Starfleet design aesthetic.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's outside of canon. I get that.
I think he said that, in one of the other episodes, he worked on freighters or something like that before he became a chief engineer in that episode. I think that's what he said. But, I don't know about as far as him actually working on design stuff.
Well, he served on freighters before he was on the Enterprise, but there was always implications that, he had a lot to do with that engine design.
Yeah, well, we know he did with the refit. When he did the refit, he was there the whole time helping with the refit. So, and a lot of those refit designs were his ideas. So,
like I said, I just think it's kind of weird to just kind of somewhat dismiss a legendary figure like that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it just seemed so close, so quickly shut, like, okay, yeah, he's back, and here we go. Go away. See you whenever.
I mean, when Spock came on, they gave him this mammoth assignment. Like, he's going to try to unify Romulan and the Vulcans. I mean, that could be its own series.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
Spock is like a major figure here, and Scotty's like, here's a shuttle, bye-bye.
Yeah, take the door.
Like, he's freaking Scotty. You should give him, like, a big deal like Spock had.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird.
I mean, at the very least, I mean, because they actually did a book about the Enterprise E, and that Scotty actually had hands-on into the design of the Enterprise E. Okay.
Well, that would explain why the Enterprise E looks a little more 23rd century then.
Yeah, that's what they did in the storybook. This was before Picard got command. It was under the command of who was that? What's the name of that captain there? That was the one that was from
was it Ships of the Line, the book. I remember. Wasn't it the guy who was on the Bozeman?
Yes. Yeah, he was given temporary.
Guy?
Yeah, he was given temporary command of the Enterprise E.
Bateson was his name. Was it Bateson?
Yeah, there you go.
Morgan Bateson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they gave this guy who was like Scotty, who'd come from the distant past, a command of this brand new ship.
Yeah, I know that's. But yeah, the part he was saying in that book that some of the parts that were used to construct the Enterprise E were leftover parts from the Enterprise D saucer section that when they carved it up, they took some of the metal fragments and they used it for assembling.
So the Sovereign class was actually a kit bash?
The Enterprise E was a kit bash, yeah. The actual Sovereign was, yeah.
Well, they did a better job with that one than they did with the Jaeger class. Now they actually made it like a whole new ship rather than just saying, let's just stick 2 ships on top of each other, boom, we get a ship.
Yeah, and it's funny that Bateman would know which pieces belonged on the Enterprise D saucer because he
was on the Enterprise even it blew up.
That's right. How would he know?
He's like getting oriented at Starfleet, and all of a sudden he knows the ship magically.
Yeah, it seems like to know every bulkhead, every rivet, and everything.
Well, maybe he was incredibly bright or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I guess he was kind of a big deal if he knew that much information about the Enterprise D, and enough to know where this
And they showed this
place
big
on the
reunion
where he knows
between,
where the ship is, you know.
and he knew Scotty back in the 23rd century, so they had this reunion between the two of them in the
Well,
book.
that makes sense because they knew each other around the same time.
Yeah, they actually had this. They had this club that they created where these people that were misfits from different time eras meet, and Scotty and Batesman, and there was all these other people.
That would have been a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is the timeline club.
Yeah.
All people meet who are from alternate timelines or from the past, and like they had this thing, a novel called The Captain's Table. That was kind of a metaphorical thing like that.
Yeah.
Where they brought all the captains together.
Yeah.
In different times, somehow.
They had this group in that storybook where they would meet like every year or something like that, people that were displaced from time, and they ended up in the 24th century. So they
yeah, that would have been an interesting little movie theme to have right there. I mean, they could have done that with Scotty, kind of developed that, like, okay, well, we're gonna have all these. They could have like had that because that was that before or after that Morgan Bateson thing?
That was actually no, the club, they made that after.
No, I mean, was the Cause and Effect episode, was that after Relics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What they could have done is this: they could have sent Scotty out, and then after Cause and Effect, said to Bateson, "You're from the 23rd century. Guess what? Scotty's here. You want to?"
Yeah.
You know,
it's like,
hey,
let's
put this thing together. You know.
Yeah, I mean, they're old buddies. You know, they knew each other from.
Let's have the Timeline Club start. Where all these people from other times who get transported in here for whatever reason can meet up and catch up with our time.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting like, little side thing to set up.
Yeah.
You know, have him start it. Maybe there are other people. Who knows? I mean, who knows what transporter accident put some person on this planet? I mean, for all you know, they transported some alternate Archer down there.
An alternate Archer.
maybe there's some sort of transporter clone of Emery Erickson, the guy who invented the thing. Who knows? Maybe all these people running around.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, it's just, or you know, they could have put in a little trouble with that Rasmussen guy.
Yeah.
Like, you're from the 22nd century. We'll have Scotty and them come in and reform you. You know, I mean, they could have done a whole thing with that. And made Scotty kind of a relevant character as being part of that Timeline Club thing that you suggested they did in that book. But no, they just sent him off and right off into the sunset, and that's it for Scotty.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like they left the door open for that. Maybe we'll see him again, but they never went back.
We did see him in the past in Generations.
Yeah.
But that was in the past.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't see him show up in the future in Generations, which would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, have him show up on the Enterprise D saying, like, yeah, well, you know, I remember when this happened, and I remember, you know, when this happened, and I remember encountering this Nexus thing, and, you know. I mean, I don't know if Chekhov was alive at that time. I know that fan canon has him there, but...
Yeah, they have him like some really high-ranking admiral or something.
Apparently, humans in the future live to be like 150 or something, don't they?
Well, they live healthier lives, so they can live longer. You know, they like Bones. He was still around at least.
I mean, you know, Chekhov could be like 140 and still be alive, I guess.
Well, since he was the youngest of the characters on the ship, I mean, yeah, he probably would have been still.
So, you know, he might have been during Generations. He might have been like 125, 30-year-old guy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, him and Scotty could have come on and kind of been, but they could have utilized Scotty in so many better ways in the future.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just sending him away and saying bye-bye, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like they just wanted to say, well, he belongs in the past. Let's send him in one of our shuttles, like a little relic. And
yeah, and it's like, you know.
They spent all this time trying to teach him that he isn't an antique, that he has some use in this time. And then like, you know what? You're an antique. Go off in our shuttle. Bye.
Yeah, you don't belong here on this ship. So just go.
You know? I mean, building all that up. I mean, he could have been kind of a, you know, he could have been a very important advisor to Starfleet over certain, you know, because I mean,
they did more with the Bozeman when it showed up from the past, and they said, well, you know, we got to help them assimilate into the present, you know, and they escorted them all the way back home, but they didn't even bother with that with Scotty to try to help him assimilate in, you know, 100 years into the future, you know, to show him what things have changed and all that. Nope, they just kick him in a shuttlecraft and okay, goodbye, you know, you figure it out for yourself. You know,
you know? Yeah, it was kind of a rushed. It really was a rushed ending.
But the storybook was a whole lot better than the episode.
Yeah, I think I have that. You know, I have the unification one. Maybe I should read those.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, I buy the movie adaptions, but I don't often read them. But you said there's some, like Star Trek 3 in the motion picture, you should really read because there's some.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to read there.
And with Relics, I don't know if I have that, but if I don't, should I read that?
Oh yeah.
The Relics thing, because I love my TNG. That's
and then read
my thing.
the ship of the line. I guess you should read
I have that book. I bought the hardback.
Yeah.
I read some of it, but I didn't read all of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, you know, because like I said, I mean, I know it's not canon, but it, you know, it gives you ideas of what might happen.
You know, as far as headcanon and things they're not going to do, they kind of fill little holes here and there.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I mean, and they have their rules. They can't kill off Troy in every page or anything, you know. I'm just saying they can't do ridiculous things. But anyway, so, okay. Is that the Scotty conversation? Because
so now we go to poor Jadzia Dax. Oh my God.
Poor Jadzia. Okay. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first? I got a whole lot to say.
Okay, you go first because you're really eager to jump into this one.
Well, okay. I'll put my little personal. Well, why don't you set the stage? That'll make it a little easier for me to kind of.
Well, the stage is pretty simple. I mean, she was, you know, for 6 years. We all
she was a founding character on the show. She was part of. I mean,
we all by the sixth season, we all really liked her and everything.
Right, and she was married to Worf, and she had a very strict character arc, and we knew who this woman was, and you know, she had her own episodes, and you know, she had the first same-sex kiss in Star Trek. I mean, really.
Yeah.
This character was huge by then.
Yeah, I mean, she laid out a lot of groundwork there. You know,
I mean, when they did the Women of Star Trek, she was on TV Guide with Jerry Ryan. Remember?
Yep, that's right.
So she was considered a big person.
Yeah.
So, and there was a dispute, if I remember. There was a raise or something she was asking for, or something, or there's some.
Yeah, it was a contract thing because I guess all the actors only signed for 6 seasons, so it came time to renew, and she decided not to because
she did that show with Ted Danson, didn't she?
Yeah, she figured that they only had 1 more year left to go with Deep Space Nine. So she figured it was time to go on to another series, so that way she'd still have work.
Now,
you know?
I was talking to my mother the other day, and here's what I think should have happened. I think Jadzia and maybe Worf should have transferred away for a little while.
Yeah.
And, you know, because Worf was just kind of an insertion to kind of, I guess, bring the series back up again.
Well, yeah, once the Klingon War ended, it was almost like, why?
They could have had Worf kind of leave with Jadzia and have them make occasional comebacks.
Yeah.
Rather than kill off a major character and then just put some people in or something, or just have some new faces there maybe. Do it that way. But instead, what ends up happening is that Dukat, in his delirium, ends up with basically a voodoo doll of the Coast of Mojan, possesses himself, and in order to get to the orb that he's trying to get to, he ends up killing Jadzia only because she's in his way.
Yeah.
No better a death than Tasha Yar had.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, no. When I watched, I'm like, don't do that. Don't kill her off that way. Give her some dignity. Have her just transfer off or give her a death that actually has some meaning. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I never meant to kill you. It's like, well, why did you?
We don't want. They could have showed her firing her phaser at him and him blocking the beam or something. That would have made it look a little more like she actually tried. They didn't even wait for that.
Well, you just have been a little Greedo shot first, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, like she, you know, pull out to show that the phaser wouldn't have killed him anyway because he had the power of the power wraith to stop the beam or something, and you know somehow maybe he just deflected the beam right back.
They really just wanted to. It was a soap opera, like I said about soap operas. It was just like, okay, well, you know, she was only set up for 6 years. She's in a coffin the next week.
Yeah,
you know, they just wanted to get her out rather way quickly.
Yeah, it was such a unceremoniously.
And then after she and Worf were planning to have a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it could have worked out like this. Well, maybe you know, Worf, we don't have a baby on this station because there's a dangerous war that's kind of we're in the middle of. So why don't we transfer off and have a baby somewhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, like that, kind of a maternity leave thing. And that would have given the opportunity, maybe like Pulaski. Maybe she could have, you know, come back later in season 7 or something.
Yeah.
You know, something just other than just get rid of her quick.
They didn't have to just close the book on her. Like you said, they could have said, well, we'll let you come back for maybe like 2 or 3 episodes in the next season to kind of give the character closure, you know, not kill it off, but, you know, to bring Jadzia, you know, some kind of closure. And we'll just introduce a new character for season 7 that will take her place as.
Yeah, I mean, they still could have kind of brought Ezri in, but as another trail, just like another trail.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, like you said, they didn't have to have her be the actual carrier of Dax symbiont. You know, it's like
yeah, that was a kind of a rush job. I mean, I have no problem with Nicole DeBoer. I think she was a talented actress. I rather like the Ezri character, but I think she might have functioned better as Ezri Tegan rather than as Ezri Dax.
That's right.
And have Jadzia come back and maybe kind of be like, okay, here's Deep Space Nine, I'll kind of show you around, then I gotta go.
Yeah.
And, kind of have this thing happening. I mean, that would have made because Deep Space Nine was all about the characters, so I don't know why they didn't do it that way. It just seemed like they wanted to get her out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, the CBS has this way of doing business that seems really harsh.
Now, was CBS in charge of it then, or was Paramount in charge of it then?
No, they were doing Deep Space Nine on CBS. Yeah.
Oh.
So, I don't know what it is about that company, but, the way they treat their actors and stuff on there, I mean, oftentimes they have these weird, like they're very harsh, like,
now that I think about it, this could almost be a part 2 thing because we didn't discuss Jennifer Leanne.
Oh, yeah. Well,
she got a good send-off, but then she got a trash can lid. But I'm going to go into that another time.
Yeah. Well,
we got a trash can lid.
If you want. I was just thinking the 3, but you could do that one.
Well, that could be kind of its own thing right there. Because the Dax one, I could go on the rest of this about Dax. Because, at the end of the day, I really think that, now I know it's weird here. We're talking about, this whole thing with 3 characters, and I feel like we're already kind of done with it. But
it's just the idea that they have 3 characters which are not really unimportant. They are important.
Well, Jadzia was very important, and so was
at the end like these people were secondary characters, and it's like I don't know of one Star Trek fan that actually liked any of the endings that these characters got. Not one.
No, I was disappointed by Scotty. I was angry about Jadzia.
Yeah.
And with Thomas Riker, I was just like, I could have been better.
Yeah.
But I remember. I mean, I wish I had somebody tape it. I was with my friend Adam, and we were having a little, kid sleepover or whatever, and we were watching that late at night. And I was like, no, Ducat, don't. I was like,
yeah.
I wanted to say no. I wanted to do something. No, I wanted to jump over there. Like, this is a stupid death. This is a Tasha Yar all over again.
Yeah.
A pointless, meaningless death that has no purpose.
And they never even explain where the hell he beamed from and to. It seems like Ducat has the ability to transport anywhere in the galaxy.
Maybe he's in the Kelvin universe where he can just transport anywhere he wants.
Yeah, because remember when they were on that duplicate Deep Space Nine?
The Emput Nor?
Yeah, and he had all that people, the religious people.
Oh, you mean the cult of Ducat there?
Yeah. And he escaped at the end. It's like, well, where the hell was the ship that beamed him out of there?
Yeah, those magic transporter crystals they can just transport halfway across the universe. So apparently the power rates give you these ability to transport halfway across the galaxy.
I guess, yeah.
Maybe they control the entire Kelvin universe for all I know. I mean, when you can just concomitantly transport, I don't know.
Yeah, really. They don't have
I got the power of the power rate to go through hyperspace and just transport anywhere I want.
They don't even need starships. You just beam from one planet to another.
Right.
It's like hopscotch.
I hate to say this. Ducat sometimes almost characterized himself as a Marvel villain.
Yeah,
like, he's got superpowers,
Yeah, you're right. He does, because
his whole thing was not just, I'm not just going to be a villain. I'm going to be a super mega villain.
Yeah.
I'm going to transport all the way across space, and I'm going to control galaxies, and I'm going to align myself with the Dominion and invade everybody with these big ships and these wormholes. And he liked to have things very epic.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a Klingon who just wanted a glorious battle and drink their blood wine.
Yeah.
Look what happened when he left Deep Space Nine. He's sitting there, the Jews is in our grasp. He's like a Marvel villain.
Yeah.
I mean, you expected him to say like something like Scooby-Doo. I want to get away with it. Wasn't that meddling Cisco? Him being the way he was. But, really.
But, they gave Gowron a better send-off than any of these characters.
Well, because he's Klingon. Klingons have this glorious battle with the Batlevs and the pain sticks or whatever.
They could have easily just had Worf put him there and shoot him dead, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah,
but no.
Klingons don't want that cowboy stuff. Klingons want to die in a glorious battle with the Batlev and saying some poetry over the body. And you will go to Stovall because you were dishonored.
Yeah.
I mean, now, here's the weird thing about Jadzia. There was a better send-off with Worf sending her to Stovall by going on that mission than there was with Jadzia dying.
Oh, yeah, I remember, that other, where she almost...
Yeah, I mean, they did a better job with sending Jadzia to Stovall than they ever did with actually killing her.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have been in combat with Ducat and actually died a more honorable death.
Yeah.
I mean, but no, they didn't have any combat. He just went in there and killed her because she was in the way.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, come on, break out the bat'leths and do something Klingon.
Yeah.
You know,
well, remember when they had that? She and Worf were going to this planet to pick up this Cardassian that kind of defected or something like that. And
yeah, and they crashed, and she almost died there.
yeah, I mean that was almost a better way to end a character that way.
Right, because at least she was with Worf, and he could have done the same thing with Kalar, and he could have sent her to Stovall and all that stuff.
Yeah, that should have been more of the ending there if they wanted to do that.
There was one thing I wanted to mention about Jadzia. I didn't know who it was, but they were talking. I don't know if you remember this at the end of season 6. The character was going to get killed off. They didn't say who. You remember that happening?
No, I don't. I guess.
Well, I was reading somebody's going to get killed off. And there was an episode. I think it was called "The Sound of Her Voice," and it was about they were talking to this Starfleet captain who was trapped on this planet.
Yeah.
But they were talking to her through a temporal thing, and she was actually back in time.
Yeah.
And they went there and they found that she died. So they had a memorial service for her. And then O'Brien made this speech that, well, we shouldn't take this for granted because somebody might be gone from this circle of people one day ourselves. And they panned right over to Jadzia.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of knew something might happen to her because they were giving these little broad hints.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, please not her. Please not her. But I thought, okay, maybe they'll give her an honorable send-off. But no.
Yeah. It's just like they just, tossed it right in your face, and okay, it's like, okay, that's it. That's the last you're going to see of her now, and and then they I guess they kind of ended the episode right around there, I guess, and
right, because Cisco had this thing where he was talking to her, and when
coughing,
she was coughing, and he's like, I got to go back to Earth and clear my head, and then the next thing you know, he's in New Orleans chucking clams.
Yeah.
It continues. It's like, okay, so Cisco's back on Earth. He's totally abandoned Starfleet, and yeah. I mean. But like I said, that was an odd way to end the season, really.
It was.
He is dead and Cisco is retiring.
It wasn't like a cliffhanger kind of thing or anything like. It just didn't feel like it. It felt like the end of an end of a series or something,
Yeah, it's like, oh, Cisco's ready to chuck clams. Jadzia's dead. Deep Space Nine's over.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been a weird ending to have him just on Earth and have it like. I mean, they could have gone to a movie after that.
Yeah, I mean, the only point to come back for the season 7 was that the war wasn't finished, So it was the only thing left still going. But they, everything else seemed like, okay, everything's done, goodbye. The series is over.
I mean, at the end of the day, again, I really feel that, Jadzia did kind of have a little bit of the worst of the shafts. Now, okay, should I add Kes into that or make that my own thing?
Go ahead and put that in there.
Well, because here's my thing. Kes actually got a double send-off, which I don't think she needed.
Yeah,
now,
that was weird the second time.
I know that now, to me, the problem with Voyager was never Kes. It was Seska. That's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I said.
Yeah, change the channel, yeah.
It's the Joey Springer show on Star Trek again. But anyway, so... Like I said, I haven't seen Martha Hackett in anything, but I'm hoping that she isn't Seska in everything she does, because that character got old before it got old.
Oh, God, fast, yeah.
But here's the thing. They got rid of her. They got rid of the Kazon. Now, I think after that, and they kind of got rid of the Neelix Kes thing, they could have developed Kes into a very interesting... Now, okay, I get it. By today's standards, Kes could have very easily been lazily written as a Mary Sue. Very easily.
Yeah, because they were imbuing her with all these powers and stuff towards the end, yeah.
But, and just the idea that Kes seemed to always know exactly the right thing to say and was so ultra composed.
Yeah.
But, they could have made Kes interesting and vulnerable. I mean, to me, they could have even had her and 7 of 9 on the show together. Like, have her be a mentor to 7 of 9 and have that be Kes's kind of function.
Gotta give her a
on the ship
view.
for 3 years, and I kind of know the ropes of this, and, maybe kind of grow with each other and kind of have this sisterly relationship. It would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But no, okay. So, they said they give Kes these, somehow the species 8472, they accelerate her powers.
Yeah.
And, so she's a danger to the ship, and she just evolves into this energy being and throws the ship.
That's what I don't get about that. You see, all the other people in her race, they didn't have any of those abilities, but she's the only one that gets them.
Well, remember that species in Star Trek and TNG, that guy who Crusher saved, whose people were evolving into another higher order being?
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
I have a speculation. I'm thinking that when the caretaker met the Okampa, he realized they were evolving beyond corporeal form.
Yeah.
But he needed their planet for whatever reason, So he figured if they evolved into a uncorporeal form, they could be a threat to him. So he kind of kept them a little servile so they didn't develop as they were. And perhaps when Kes left that underground universe, that evolution into a higher order being resurfaced. Maybe the Ocampa were going through a hyper-evolution.
Yeah, it could have been.
At that time, because they were said to have abilities that those people with Suspiria were. Or who knows? Maybe the caretaker was involved in that. Maybe he was accelerating their evolution in his own way.
Yeah.
But maybe they were evolving into a higher order of being.
It may be that he was doing more than just supplying them energy so they could survive underground.
Maybe that's part of why they only lived 9 years. Maybe the reason why the Ocampa lived 9 years was because their energy was so strong, their physical bodies couldn't take it that long.
Yeah.
So, maybe they were just a very high order of being that was outgrowing its corporeal body.
Yeah.
So I can explain that with Kes. But now, at first I wondered, why didn't she send Voyager all the way back? But then I realized, well, there's 2 reasons. They want a few more seasons out of it. And the other reason is that Kes kind of knew that Janeway did not want an easy fix. So she said, well, Borg space could be a danger to them, so I'll send them out of Borg space and give them a little leap.
I just figured that she didn't have the power yet to be able to go that far with the ship. To push
I don't know, but she gave him a little gift back. That was a good send-off to Kes. She did a sweet thing for them, and it was a nice ending. And if that was the end of Kes, I'd have been totally satisfied. But no. 2 years later, somebody decided to do an episode called Theory, where Kes comes back as basically a bitter old lady.
Yeah, and I don't understand whose idea it was to bring her back. If any,
I don't know if it was Brian Fuller, but I remember reading somebody had this idea that, well, and I know there were really, and nobody talks about, there was some really bad issues with somebody in the staff and Jennifer Leanne. I don't know what it was, but Mogu often talks about Kate Mulgrew, the way she left.
Yeah.
Basically, I got the impression that somebody went to her and say, you're not working out, your character isn't benefiting Voyager, we're going to fire you. The end.
Yeah.
And seeing Jennifer Leanne's recent behavior, I don't think it affected her well.
No.
At all.
No.
She ended up with legal trouble. I think there was some alcohol issues, some mental problems. Just a lot of bad things happened to her. And today she's even physically recognizable.
Yeah, I know. I saw some pictures of her.
She's of all the starting people, she's the one who's had the most downward spiral. Yeah. And actually, I feel bad for her. I don't know what went down, but her life just went out of control after Star Trek.
Yeah.
It went into a really bad place. And I felt bad because I actually felt that Kes had a germ of a great potential they just never used.
The writers didn't know what to do with her, I guess. I don't know.
And they had, and her acting ability was not bad at all.
No, they just
gave her the right story. She could be downright brilliant.
They didn't give her enough to be able to show her acting ability.
Yeah, it's almost like there was a personal beef in there. I don't know what it was. I do not spread rumors, but she was canned from the show. But so when they brought her back 2 years later, it all seemed very spiteful. They brought her back as a hostile, conspiratorial character who was bitter and wanted to. And I never saw in the 3 issues on Voyager a side of her that would ever want to harm those people. And the caretaker, Neelix, just wanted to kind of leave, and she said, these are people who held us. We should help them.
Yeah.
That Kes wanted them to eat Blade. That was not the character I remember.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I don't even count that as Kes, really. That was like another whole thing. And they wrote it off like, well, she was such an innocent character, and innocence turns to cynicism quickly. And I was like, nah, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I think it was just, again, taking a character they didn't want to develop, getting rid of her in a decent way, but then bringing her back on a trash can lid.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt about it. That's why when I watch Voyager, I never go back to that, because that episode I just find kind of offensive. It's kind of a rude thing to a character to do that.
It's an episode they didn't have to make.
Can you imagine if they brought back Jadzia as this demonic parade figure that shot lasers out of her eyes?
Oh, man, the fans would have had a riot.
That's the same kind of thing if she's like, I'm Demon Jadzia and I'm going to kill everybody,
come back to destroy your station.
Now, when, they didn't bring Tasha Yar back as an evil person. They just bought her daughter back as a conspiratorial Romulan.
Yeah, and that was another character they just kind of ended and never really did nothing with after that.
Actually, you know what? Should we just put Yar in here?
Yeah, we might as well. There's a whole.
Really, might as well just call the whole family of characters who are missing. Everybody knows about Yar.
Yeah.
Basically, she was a Star Trek character that I actually rather liked. And
Yeah,
you know
okay.
what? I felt and I did root Denise Crosby. Now I've met Denise Crosby, wonderful person. I wish I could talk to her more about it. She was busy talking to fans because I really agree with her totally on this. They should have put her and Worf in some kind of thing together on a mission, personal relationship, something.
Yeah.
Her and Worf were very compatible characters.
Yeah.
He was a young Klingon raised by humans trying to find his identity. She was a human who was raised in a dysfunctional colony with rape gangs and trying to learn to trust people, but still hold her own. They could have been a really good buddy characters, if not romantic interest. They would have been interesting to pair those two up in some way.
Yeah.
And she said if we had more moments like that thing about, was it Parisi Squares at the beginning of Skin of Evil?
Yeah.
Oh, was Skin of Evil the one with Lily T. Lynch in it, or was that the Doherty one?
No, they actually were. I think this was in the episode where they had the Binars on board, and the crew was kind of going on a shore leave, and she and Worf and some other people were going to play this game.
Right, the Parisi Squares. But there was a scene at the beginning of Skin of Evil where she's talking to Worf about something.
Oh yeah, it was some. It wasn't. I don't think it was Parisi Squares. It was some other game or some other.
Right,
like,
you kind of
up against somebody or some
she
fighting.
and Worf are sort of getting chummy with each other.
Yeah, that he was going to.
They could have built right on that. Like, maybe had Worf be part of a security team or something.
Yeah.
And giving Worf something to do than just go to wherever station needs to be manned.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a purpose on the bridge. I mean, he just like manned whatever console was available.
And maybe Tasha could have said, well, Worf, you're obviously very adept at security. You're obviously a warrior. Perhaps you could be part of a leader of my security team and be a strong contingent on this ship.
Yeah.
And she could have been Worf and her could have been checkmate Charlies on the ship.
Yeah.
That would have been a great thing to do. But here's the thing. They sent it out of this planet. Now, true, she's trying to get to Troy, who, as you said, she'd been absent 5 episodes, then magically appeared again.
Yeah.
And you said you didn't even notice it. Like, okay, amazing disappearing, reappearing Troy,
Like, oh, yeah, that's right. They had a ship's counselor. I forgot about that.
Yeah, she's gone. So she gets up on this planet by this Skin of Evil, this race left behind. And so as Denise Crosby said, Tasha Yar's deaths amount to her getting slimed by a humanoid oil slick.
Yeah. One of the worst ways to go.
So, I mean, and of course, her whole thing is that I want to get to my shuttle crew. I have to act now. So, slime, she's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's like, so she's going to get killed by having slime thrown at her? Really?
That
and
was
even
the most bizarre.
And over again, here's the thing about, and then the thing is when she's sitting there dying, they have this freaking slime all over her face, this big blot of slime. And I'm thinking, geez, so you freaking slime somebody to death? Jesus, that's not very dignified.
Yeah.
And then not only that, now I will agree, her funeral did seem quite real.
Yeah, it was impactful, yeah.
I mean, I'd heard stories, I don't know how true it is, that Marina Sirtis' tears weren't faked.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of unhappiness about her leaving, and that, because I know the last scene she shot on the show was actually in the episode that aired after.
Yeah.
Or the one before it, with the symbiosis, was it?
Symbiosis, yeah.
And you said if you look in the transporter room, you see her waving goodbye in the background.
Yeah, when Picard and Crusher are leaving that cargo bay with the transporter, when the doors start to close, you'll see Denise wave at the last second before the doors.
So that's kind of a little Easter egg in there.
Yeah.
That was the last scene she filmed, even though Skin of Evil was the last one aired.
Saying goodbye to the fans, basically.
So it's interesting how they film these things backwards. But yeah, I do enjoy Tasha Yar's funeral, but I'm like, we barely have to know this character, and now we're sending her away.
Yeah.
But I will say, at least she got a better send-off in the end than Jadzia did. Jadzia just got a coffin and Cisco being upset.
Yeah.
There should have been a massive funeral for Jadzia.
Yeah.
So I'll give Yar had an empty death, but at least they gave her some dignity.
Yeah.
And I love that speech at the end because, the weird thing about that speech she gave everybody is that gave Yar all the characterization she didn't apparently have.
Yeah.
You had to hear what she thought of all the crew, and it's like, why do you keep her alive? Obviously, she had the high opinions of everybody, and they could have worked on all those things.
Well, see, that was the thing about it that made that impactful, is that
you got to know more about Yar's character in a hologram after her death.
Yeah, and now we know we'll never be able to see her again. But when they bring Denise Crosby back to play the Romulan, they kind of messed everything up. I mean, it's like, what?
Oh, yeah. They kind of had Yar being and the crew being captured on the Enterprise,
the Enterprise C.
And some who survived, and Yar ending up in a kind of what do you call Stockholm syndrome relationship with a Romulan.
Yeah.
In order to save lives, and then trying to take the child away and then trying to kidnap the kid.
And that to me didn't seem very characteristic of Yar, even in that mirror or that duplicate.
I would have thought Yar would have preferred to go out fighting.
Yeah. Why would she all of a sudden, have this relationship with a Romulan or something? I mean, that just seemed like, no, she would fight to the end. That's what she is. She's a fighter.
I could see Yar getting killed, but I couldn't see Yar starting a trial with a Romulan.
Yeah, I mean, that's why she went on the Enterprise C. She knew the ship was gonna get destroyed, but she went anyway because she's a fighter right to the end.
It's more like a Klingon. I mean, I could see her going on a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
I mean, they could work that in, but I guess Denise Crosby wanted to return to something, so they created this bizarre story that took Tasha's character totally. Yeah. Although I will say this, that was not the Tasha Yar from that universe. That was the Tasha Yar from an alternate timeline.
Yeah, and
so that Tasha Yar might have had a very different framework.
Yeah.
Because she'd been involved in a Klingon war.
Yeah, that's...
I don't know if the Tasha Yar from the regular timeline would have ever done that.
Yeah.
If that had been the regular Tasha Yar, I could have sworn that's how I kind of looked at it. That was the alternate Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
As obviously, Picard, his Yar never did that.
Now they gave Sela sort of a unofficial closing because I think the fans really didn't like that character.
Because the character was a victim of an alternate universe Yar anyway.
Yeah, and it's like that didn't really. I don't think Denise Crosby could play the villain as effective as they would hope, and I don't think the fans...
Yeah, Denise Crosby tends to be a hero character. She doesn't... As Gene Roddenberry said, she came off a little like Grace Kelly, As a villain, she's just too... I don't know, she's not right villain material.
Yeah.
She seems like she'd be the leading hero.
Yeah.
And when she tries to play an unheroic character, it just doesn't work,
Yeah.
I mean, now I will tell you, even though, Marina Sirtis is an actress, Troy made a much more convincing Romulan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she did.
That's why I always love Face of the Enemy, because she played that role to a T after a while.
Yeah.
But Marina Sirtis even said, yeah, well, I was not even playing Troy. I was playing this other character.
Yeah.
So, but, the thing is, when Denise was playing Sela, she kind of came off like another Tasha Yar, only like with a slightly evil Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
Almost like there was this... But they could have played off that conflict, but they really didn't. She's like, everything was assumed about me died.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to call BS on that because I see qualities that are very Tasha Yar in her.
Yeah.
And so, they kind of messed that whole thing up because,
Well, she ends with a nerve pinch from Spock, and that's how we close that character up.
But with Tasha Yar, it's like, okay, the alternate Tasha Yar ended up consorting with a Romulan. The regular Tasha Yar got slimed. So in any timeline, Tasha Yar's character arc kind of ends in a sucky way.
Yeah, always.
So it's like, you keep screwing with this character. Why don't you just give her that dignified send-off she deserved and somehow?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I guess all good things kind of could be that, because she kind of defended the ship by asking Picard, why are you giving us these weird orders? And she kind of ended up getting killed there with the whole crew.
Oh, here's an idea. In that movie Star Trek Nemesis, instead of having the clone Picard, why didn't they bring Sela back in there and have some closure with that character in that movie? She could have been the villain in that.
A Sela clone or Sela herself?
Oh, Sela trying to restore her honor with the Romulan people after it was...
Right, instead of the Picard mini-me there.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I mean, there's no background to that, but we knew all about this character here, and we could see that, maybe this time she's got, this new ship, and she's got people, and she's trying to be deceptive, and, and then maybe she finds some redemption somewhere along the way in that movie. I mean, that would have given
Denise Crosby something to do in the movie,
Yeah, that would have been a better way to close up the series, I think.
Right. So, I mean, boy, we ended up talking about a whole lot. We ended up talking about Yar and Kes here, So we had started with 3 characters. We ended up with 5, so.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Give it an even 6. Is there any other significant character that you think got the shaft before we end this thing?
Oh, right. I bet people watching would probably have some. I can't remember.
So, I'll just make this kind of like, a thing. We might do a part 2 of this, or may not. I mean, if you look back at Star Trek, you might find little characters that, and again, it's not going to be Seska.
Yeah. We don't talk about that. They couldn't get rid of her quick enough in any fast.
Well, I mean, if you look at, I remember I remember reading Starlog, and it wasn't worded quite like this, but the attitude was like, Seska's gone. Let's get back to Voyager. They were so anxious about it. It's like, but the thing about that, they kept bringing her back.
Yeah.
I remember every time they did, I'd be like, Do I have to do this again?
Am I gonna have to take this?
Why is this the Seska show again? She's gone. She's driftwood. Let her go away. Bye-bye.
Yeah, really.
I mean, come on. You didn't even bring Jadzia back once, but, well, you brought Tasha Yar back, so that's fine. But really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather see more Scotty. Screw Seska. Forget it. So anyway, I guess we've done our bit with the hero characters. We're talking about hero characters. That's why I didn't mention Seska, because she was never a hero character.
Yeah.
Even before they revealed the deception, she was never any kind of hero character. She was always sneaky. But anyway, we have Thomas Riker, Scotty, Jadzia, Yar, and Kes. Now that I think about it, there's a little theme here. There's only one guy in there. Do you think it's kind of easier for people in Star Trek to kind of think of female characters as oddly expendable? Kind of weird and disturbing when you think about it. But, I notice a lot of them are women they tend to easily get rid of. They tend to think of female characters as expendable somehow. Except Jadzia, who should never have been expendable at all, or Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
Now, I will give Tasha Yar one thing. They never let you forget she was part of the cast of the entire show. They constantly referenced her.
Yeah.
Data, even though she wanted Data to, he never forgot their intimacy.
Yep.
Never forgot it.
Yeah.
And emphasized it every chance he could. He even said it in his trial, they had an intimacy.
Yep.
Which might have been a little bit revealing, but he did. Yeah. There was an episode where Worf was about to die, and Riker was going about the list of people that were killed, and he mentioned her.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she had a sister, remember, who came on.
Yeah, that's
who had divided loyalties, and they were trying to see Tasha in her.
Yeah.
So the crew didn't just forget about her.
Yeah.
Now, okay, they didn't forget about Jadzia either. She was mentioned constantly in season 7. Well, at least by Worf.
Yeah.
But with Kes, it's kind of like she disappeared almost from the timeline. You never really heard anybody really mention her after that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Neil's did a couple of times, but she kind of like got erased.
Yeah.
Jadzia was like, we remembered her. She was important. There was references to her.
I suppose as an actor, if you invested 3 years into a character and then to be taken out like that, I guess you'd feel like a personal blow to your ego. It's like, well, geez, I guess I wasn't that good after all, and they didn't.
Maybe it's what happened to Jennifer Leanne. It just blew her confidence into a place she couldn't get it back.
Maybe what she needed was, maybe the Star Trek fans. I mean, did she ever go to any conventions or anything like that?
I feel bad because I wish that I had written like a book-length letter to her saying that, guess what, somebody out there really digs you. We'd love to see you get a dignified comeback, but sometimes we should change history because most of the Star Trek characters have had their trials and tribulations. They usually bounce back pretty well. She's the one who had a lot of trouble. And I feel bad because I kind of saw it coming, but I was hoping the fans would support her. But they treated her worse than Seska. It's like, oh, well, we've got the 7 of 9. We don't need that person anymore. They were kind of cruel about it.
But the reasons that they got rid of her, which were,
I don't know what they were. Nobody really knows what they were.
They said that she didn't have enough sex appeal. I mean, that's like adding salt to the wound.
That is just nasty.
Yeah, I mean, why would
that's like going below the belt.
Yeah. And I don't know who started that or anything like that, but now that's become like the official reason why.
I mean, that's downright sexist.
They were saying that about Janeway too. They said, well, she had no sex appeal, so they needed to have sex.
Well, you know what? Mulgrew will tell you how wrong that is, though.
Yeah, but
she'll say, no, it's not going to be that way. Mulgrew will tell you a million reasons why you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, but she didn't want. See, Mulgrew didn't want the show to become like that, like the girl.
Right. But what Janeway did is, like you said, she may have been a little bit of that whole hyper masculine thing in the beginning, but she evolved into more of a motherly character in the end.
Yeah.
Which I think is more Kate Mulgrew. If you know her character, she's more of a motherly type.
Yeah, they couldn't put Kate Mulgrew into a slinky, skin-tight silver outfit, because
she was more like a maternal woman. She was
But see, they wanted to have somebody that had the looks from a Playboy pinup, and that's when they bring Jerry Ryan into the thing to get the audience, the demographic.
What Jerry Ryan does is she manages to create a character that was the Data or the Odo or the Spock of Star Trek. Yeah.
So she actually rose above what the reason they brought her on.
So I'm never going to stop giving props to Jerry Ryan.
No.
I really think Jennifer Leanne, it was really cruel to say, oh, you wouldn't have any sex appeal.
Yeah.
I mean, she was supposed to be like a 1-year-old alien.
Yeah.
I mean,
when she left, she was what, 3? She was 3 years old when she left?
She was a 20-year-old actress, but My goodness, she was essentially supposed to be a little girl.
Yeah.
An overgrown little girl. That's exactly how they created it, like almost a little Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Sweet and cute, but not jailbait.
Yeah.
So it would have been kind of jail as it is. The Neelix relation with her was kind of jailbaity anyway, when you consider her age.
Yeah, they didn't really talk much.
Even though I know she's an adult for her species, but still, it seemed a little weird. But even still, I mean, there was so much they could have done with that character that we wouldn't have sex appeal. What about character? What about a sense of person?
Yeah.
I mean, you think Gene Roddenberry would have taken that if he'd been there?
Yeah, he would have stood in the way of that for sure.
And he would have said, "Oh, don't you even tell that to her." He would have said, "We'll develop this character into somebody the characters will want to see, fans want to see every week."
Yeah.
Because I remember he had that happen with number 1. Oh, she has no sex appeal. Who does she think she is? And he caved into that. But after that, he always fought for female characters being strong.
Yeah.
So I think maybe I soapbox a little bit with Kes, but I really think she could have stood up there with the best of them if they let her.
Yeah.
She
just needed the writers to give her
do it. I never saw. Some characters are just not good characters. You can't do anything with them. Like, I don't think Keiko was that interesting personally. It wasn't just bad writing. It was her character wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
With Kes, she wasn't an interesting character. The writing for her just didn't work.
Yeah.
The right writers could have gone in there and fixed that right up.
Yeah. The only reason why she wasn't interesting is because they didn't invest in her like they did the other.
Because they didn't think, oh, well, she's not a model enough figure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they just wanted their Kes to be that. That was it,
that 18 to 35-year-old male demographic just want to watch the show for TNA, and it's like, well,
that's not.
Someone's watching the show because they love Star Trek and they love its characters and they're invested in these people.
Yeah.
And as a gay person, obviously not, but I mean, were either of us invested in looking at Star Trek? Like, oh, if we're going to drool over these female characters watching.
Well, if they wanted that, why didn't they just have the woman of the week like they do at TOS, where Kirk would meet this woman and they'd, if that's,
that could have been kind of like the little sex appeal thing.
They could have had one of the guy characters on Voyager meet this attractive woman and stuff. They could have done that, instead of having to eliminate it.
Exploitation in the show.
Yeah, if that's what they were looking for,
So I guess this whole death thing, this meaningless as a character has actually turned into this conversation about how a lot of women have been victims of this. And not only that, how it got involved in exploitation. Now, with Denise Crosby, that was not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, she came into that looking amazing. But the problem with her was that they just kind of didn't utilize the character the way they should.
Yeah.
And they had a good one there. They just didn't utilize it. Jadzia, again, not a problem in the look department, believe me.
Yeah.
And they utilized that character and then killed her off anyway over a stupid contract.
Yeah.
And that character was very utilized. It wasn't like the character wasn't developed.
You can't tell me they couldn't have worked something out with her being, just to come back for like maybe just, 3-4 episodes out of the 7 seasons.
She wasn't exactly a red shirt.
Yeah.
She wasn't a generic character. She was the main character on the show. So it's just weird to just have her just plunked out quickly like that.
They've done that with other actors in other shows before where they bring them back for just a guest appearance or something for a few episodes and then,
they could have done that. But yeah, so there are ways they could have done this, and I'm hoping because we have this Discovery now, and whatever it's supposed to be canon, or I don't even know. I'm hoping that whatever they do, they don't just pluck a character out of there in an unsensible way and learn that lesson from the past. That if a character is going to die, at least give them some dignity when you do it.
Well, this is what I kind of get from that. If you got cast, that's too many people in the cast. You got 8, 9, 10 people that you got to write story. Maybe that's too much. Maybe you need to narrow it down to maybe just 5 people that you need to write these stories for. Maybe if you got the more people you have in the main characters, that means more writers are going to have to work twice as hard to get these characters fleshed out because they all got to have a story. And maybe these days they only make 15 episodes in a season now. Is that all they make? Or even less.
I think something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's not even a whole season. That's like half of a season, that we grew up with. So that's not a whole lot of time to try to make these characters real, with as many as they have. So maybe they need to think about, maybe bottlenecking that a little bit, and so that way they've only got developed just 3 of them or something, and then everybody else can play off the 3, like we did with Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Because that seemed to work for TOS. Everybody else kind of played around the 3, the triad, and they still were popular. And but that's what they need to do, because I think what Deep Space Nine is, they just had way too many characters they had to write for, way
Well,
too
they
many.
had the main characters, and then they
Yeah.
started really developing the little side ones, and then they kind of bought in like spare tire characters they wanted to develop too. It started to become like a whole army of characters.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
like I said, they have the main bridge characters, whatever. Then they bring in characters like Quark that are supposed to be secondary, and they kind of start bringing them up. And they have Nog, who's supposed to be a spare tire. They bring him up.
Yeah.
And then they have Lita, who's supposed to be a real spare tire. They bring her all the way up. So they got all these.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost like we get a, we can't be writing for all these people. So instead of just having Lita and them go away, or having Nog go off to the academy and be gone, they get rid of Jadzia.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, they could have had Nog go to the academy, and that was the end of Nog. They could have had Lita go off with whoever, and that would be the end of Lita. But why they get rid of Jadzia?
Yeah.
I mean, not that the characters were bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they could have given them dignified send-offs so they could come back once in a while. But it's like they kept wanting to bring in all these new people and regurgitate things. And
yeah, it's like they were constantly bringing back, secondary characters all the time. And, some of them were worth revisiting, but a lot of times it's like, well, why are you starting this up? And it just wouldn't go anywhere, like
I said, again, if you want to keep Jadzia on the show, but you're writing too many characters, just send Keiko to Bajor forever. Friggin' ever, and keep Jadzia on the show. Because who cares about when she comes back or not? She's not interesting.
She was hardly ever on that show anyway.
Right, Jadzia is interesting, so just send Keiko away. She's not important on this show. She's just causing trouble when she comes on the ship. She's not very useful. Bring in Jadzia and make her do stuff. I mean, really. This is where I feel like, I wish I was kind of writing on the show then, but, I don't want to get into that jealousy trip. But, I mean, I feel like, sometimes, if you ever watch the Star Trek and been like, oh, if only I had a pen, I could just go write this all out,
Yeah.
Like, it's partying with fleas, Like, I love this show so much. I would love to see this happen, I think that's kind of the end of the day that, and we're not saying we want to be going in there and putting our egos into this and changing stuff. I'm just saying this is what we would like. Because I was watching a video recently about a person who was talking about their alternate ending to the Voyager's finale Endgame, which is kind of interesting. But, like I said, we could kind of invent alternate endings to all these stories, I suppose.
I like the one you had for Deep Space Nine there. What you come up with. With Jake at the end is the one that wrote the whole thing out. It was all a story in his mind.
I want to be kind of saying elsewhere, but actually, I just thought of a Dax ending to that, kind of like, I'm going to mention it here because I'm not really writing this, so I'm just, But anyway, just the idea that, at the end of season 7, you see Sisko go into the fire caves, and they segue to Jake saying, and then Sisko jumps into the fire caves to be never seen by humans again or something. And then Sisko's right there saying that, that's an interesting ending, Jake, or whatever. And then Jadzia comes around and saying that, oh, it's too bad you kill me.
Yeah.
And like, oh, she's alive, you didn't really kill her. That would be kind of exciting.
And the name of that story was Anselm or something like
Anselm,
that.
and that would have been the ending of Anselm. And Deep Space Nine had a totally different ending.
Yeah.
They could have even gone even further. They could have been like, maybe the Dominion War didn't happen at all. Like,
he just inserted that in there to make the story interesting.
Yeah, maybe the Dominion actually made an agreement with the Federation, and Wayon was staying there saying that, oh, why did you change that and change that? That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe the pod died way earlier or something like that. And just have all of them be there and have it, and like, oh, so this was Jake in, like you said, Sisko may have disappeared at one point, and then Jake had, was kind of writing this out to work it out, and then Sisko came back and he put an ending.
It's like the Earl Hamner thing, writing.
The Waltons, he was writing his story through the Waltons. Yeah, it would have been interesting to end it that way. Although I know it's a little bit of a Patrick Duffy in the shower, but they could have worked it out. Like, maybe you have Jadzia in the shower. Worf up in Jadzia's in the shower. That actually never happened, Worf. You had a dream.
Worf opens the shower and she's standing there.
Oh, she's in the shower. This is Patrick Duffy all over again,
That would have been a weird. Okay, where do we get this idea from?
I wonder where that came from, right? It's always good to end these with a little laugh. So you got any more to say? I'd love to end it on this little laughy note,
No, I guess I'm good now.
So we've done all these characters and we even ended on a laugh. So see you for episode 44 next week. Don't know what it's going to be, but hopefully we'll have a little laugh at the end of that too. Live long and prosper.
Hey, everybody.
Don't forget Jadzia in the shower.